But let's move away from that. We'll come back to it later. The National Economic Council, NEC, has agreed the plan to remove fuel subsidy should not be executed yet. It, however, said all preparatory plans with various segments of governments, including states and the incoming administration, should be intensified. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, disclosing this to journalists after the Valedictory NEC meeting presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on Wednesday, said that the removal of subsidy would likely take effect in June because the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, and the 2023 budget provided subsidy till June. Hence, any delay may require amendment of the PIA and the budget provision also. Also, of course, adding that plans are in top gear for the eventual removal of the first subsidy. Now, joining us is Mr. Adeola Yusuf, is an energy expert to shed more light on some of all of this that is going on. Mr. Yusuf, thanks for joining us. Kindly unmute your device so we can get sound from you and hear you properly. All right. Adeola Yusuf, let's get you to share your thoughts on what's going on here. The first question would be, it was a little confusing when the Nigerian government, the Buhari administration, had announced earlier that they were going to be removing subsidy. And of course, Nigerians questioned, the timing, first of all. Yes, it is important that we remove subsidy because people have described it as a fraudulent act and a scam and whatnot. But of course, the timing still needs to be questioned. Is Nigeria ready to really remove subsidy? Would Nigerians be able to afford petrol when subsidy is removed? The level of inflation that is expected after subsidy is removed. We don't have any refineries working. So let's get your thoughts on why it seems the Nigerian government was rushing into it. Okay, we seem to have lost... of course, we will try to reconnect with Adeola Yusuf there, who, of course, will shed light on this topic. But the conversations really are from the foundation of this whole conversation. Many administrations in the past had spoken about the removal of petrol subsidy. The Goodluck Bello Jonathan administration tried it in 2012. Remember, there was a huge protest across the country. Eventually, when he left office, Buhari's administration did, of course, make attempts to remove subsidy. Of course, reignited these conversations on removal of subsidy. But the questions Nigerians have been asking are what steps have been put in place to cushion the effects of the removal of subsidy and the expected increase in the price of petrol. Some have predicted that it might sell for as much as 400 to 500 naira or maybe even 600 naira a litre if you take out subsidy on petrol. Can Nigerians afford petrol at that level? What level of inflation will the country have to deal with if this is done? The cost of living will skyrocket as expected, and these are some of the concerns that Nigerians have. The Nigerian government on its own, in its bid to remove subsidy, it has numerous times been called a fraudulent activity that has gone on that enriches just a few and leaves a lot of Nigerians fighting for their lives. But of course, in its bid to remove subsidy, has also made mention of things that they will do to cushion the effects of removal of subsidy. One of them in the last few weeks has been the borrowing of $800 million that the Nigerian government hopes to share to poor Nigerians to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy, which, in my opinion, makes absolutely no sense. Because are you going to continue borrowing $800 million to continue to share money to cushion the effects of removal of subsidy? Or are you going to do it once? Because when Nigerians or the people who are receiving these, the 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira across the country, when that money is gone, what next? The removal of subsidy is still there. The prices of petrol and cost of living is still on the increase. So are you going to keep borrowing $800 million every 6 months or every year to cushion the effects? Or are you going to do it once? And also, if you're talking about removing subsidy, you should have at least had one functioning refinery. And I'm not talking about the Dangote refinery. I'm talking about a refinery in Nigeria, the Kaduna refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery. Any of them should be fully functional enough to refine petrol here in Nigeria, because that's generally the idea behind subsidy. Nigeria has crude oil, ships this crude oil to a different country to get it refined and turned to petrol, and then buys that petrol back for Nigerians to use. So if we had a functioning refinery, one functioning refinery, maybe two, then we will, have zero, need to take crude oil out of Nigeria's shores to get them refined. But we don't have that. Has the Nigerian government made any efforts to fix any of its refineries? In 2017, if you remember, there was conversations about borrowing $1.5 billion to fix the Port Harcourt refinery. I remember that, but still nothing has been done in that regard, or we haven't had any updates with regards to fixing of the Port Harcourt refinery. Modular refineries are also a thing. Is anyone fully functional? Do we have plans of making modular refineries your thing?
Nothing yet, Osage. I mean, you've already highlighted every single thing that's meant to be said, looking at what this will cost Nigerians. Most importantly, you do recall that at a certain point in time, there was a former group director, you better still, you call him the man who came out to speak to Nigerians. I mean, Dr. Ibe Kachuku.
Yes.
Who had made mention that Nigeria will save about 1.4 trillion naira once subsidy is removed. And remember, there was also a statement at some point that the subsidy has been removed.
Yes.
Which got a lot of Nigerians agitated.
Yeah.
That, oh, really? Subsidy has been removed? Subsidy has been removed? So you have a cross-section of Nigerians who are saying, how many times do you want to remove this subsidy? All right. The Minister of State, talk about the Minister of Petroleum Resources, who has just left, talk about Timbre Silva, who has actually moved into going back into partisan politics as well. There were statements and mentions from time to time that, of course, subsidy, this is how much is being spent on subsidy, this is what the country is looking at. Right before you had the president who sat at the helms of affairs and said, you know what, I'm going to be in charge of this and handle these particular challenges that we're having. Did we see any changes? Did anything go on? You know, all right, we're being told that our guest is here with us as well while we continue the conversation. Mr. Adeola, if you're here with us and you can hear us, let's quickly take your thoughts, shed more light on why the NEC has decided to put a hold on this subsidy removal once again.
Okay, thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be on the program this morning. We are all aware the pronouncement by the Minister of Finance yesterday that Nigeria will not remove subsidy on premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, by June 2023. Before this, there has been a plan to remove subsidy. There's actually a public proclamation that subsidy will be removed. Mind you, before even this proclamation, the Petroleum Industry Bill has been passed into an act and be signed by the president some years ago, I think 2 years ago. And this has criminalized continuous payment of subsidy on premium. So for government not to now go ahead with that, there is a need for a public declaration like what we have yesterday. And another background I need to quickly do to this is that it is only on premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, that Nigeria is paying subsidy. Other petroleum products like kerosene, like diesel, subsidies are being removed on all those ones. Now, going back to that proclamation, what this means in simple man's language is that the price that petrol is being sold, in different filling stations across the country will still remain at that amount. And if Nigerians will keep buying petrol at that amount that they are still buying it, mind you, petrol is a product from crude oil that is traded globally, that has a global price. So what this will mean is that the amount that petrol is supposed to be sold, which is as at few days ago, about 475 naira, Nigerian government will continue to now subsidize to put the excess that Nigerians are supposed to pay on every liter that they are buying at the filling station. The federal government is going to continue to pay this extra, through different arrangements. That is the simple language that Nigerians will understand with this. But there are implications to this. Mind you, subsidy removal has been a mantra of campaign by every politician. When President Muhammad Buhari, that is rounding up now, wanted to come to power, Nigerians will remember that one of the things that he was telling them, one of the promises that he made was that he's going to remove subsidy. The administration that we are having now, the administration that is supposed to be inaugurated on May 29, also was talking about subsidy. So this subsidy is a big deal because it affects every Nigerian. It affects everyone, over 200 million, Nigerians. So Nigeria will continue to pay subsidy. And what this will mean is that we continue to buy, we'll be running into budget deficit because we don't have so much to run all infrastructure and all that, but we'll continue.
Mr. Yusuf, are you saying
money to pay this?
Are you then saying that they're really just playing politics and that the government is never really going to actually remove subsidy for petrol? Is this what it is likely to be? Including with the coming administration, and at the same time, can you talk about what the reality might be if truly we remove subsidy when we do not have any, properly functional refineries?
Okay, I didn't actually hear the question.
All right, we seem to have a little network glitch there, technicalities as well. But I think Mr. Dela Yusuf is making it clear to all Nigerians and our viewers that we're still going to be paying the same amount for fuel, but once it is removed, of course, there will be changes. And that also means that we'll also continue to pay for the refining process of crude, which ordinarily should have been done here in Nigeria. But sadly, no refinery seems to be working, even after there's been a major stake in the conversation of any incoming political party or politician who aims to direct the affairs of the country. Mr. Adeola, you're here. My colleague was asking a question.
Okay. Again, I didn't hear the question properly, but let me quickly do a bit of a background on refinery, on why we are where we are. Ordinarily, Nigeria is a country that is producing, that is the biggest producer of crude oil in Sub-Saharan Africa. It's not supposed to even be talking about fuel subsidy. So what took us to where we are? Every day, because Nigeria is the biggest crude producer, just like I've said earlier, we allocate 445,000 barrels of crude oil for local refineries. And the reason for this is that Nigeria has 4 refineries, 2 in Port Harcourt, 1 in Warri, and 1 in Kaduna, with total production capacity of 445,000 barrels every day. So from the basket of production every day, we allocate 445,000 barrels of crude, for this refinery. So what that will mean is that whatever is happening to the crude oil price at the international market, Nigerians are not supposed to, be concerned about it, because locally we are producing crude oil, and locally we should be refining the crude oil into different products that we need. But unfortunately for us, these facilities, the refineries that I told you with that 445,000 barrels, and up to this moment that I'm talking to you, none of them is producing 1 barrel of crude oil. And so what happened? The Nigerian government has gone into different arrangements. Journalists prefer to call it a crude product swap, but government and the NNPC would like that Nigerians call it direct sale, direct purchase. And what this means simply is that the 445,000 barrels of crude that are supposed to be allocated to Nigeria every day are being given to some contractors. If you like, they may be refiners. If you like, they may be briefcase, contractors whatsoever. And these ones will now ship it to refineries abroad. Those refineries abroad now, and they will now return, the same quantum, if you want to, the same quantity that is supposed to be, retrieved when it comes to, petrol. So the refineries abroad, what we are doing is that we provide jobs for refineries abroad. We strengthen the currency of countries abroad, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, they will now have to go and ship in this petrol from the crude oil, and because of Nigerian population, they will have to still buy more and more. That is what has
Mr. Yusuf,
that unfortunate situation
Mr. Yusuf,
that we need to now pay to
Mr. Yusuf,
we need to now pay extra.
Can you hear us?
To make sure that we get those products.
Yeah, unfortunately, listen, I think everyone would agree that on every level of this whole first subsidy conversation, there is so many questions that need to be answered. We also need to answer the actual figures that Nigeria consumes of petrol every day, which for a long time has been seen to be very, very fraudulent. The number of barrels of crude oil that's allegedly missing or stolen every day from Nigeria's shores. These are questions that need to be answered. Quickly address the idea of borrowing $800 million, of course, to give to poor Nigerians to cushion the effect. You can do this in 30 seconds. That's the current administration's plan. Do you think that would still happen, or it would, it would come to play?
I can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong with the network.
I think we have the okay, Mr. Dola.
The line is.
All right, Mr. Dola. If you can hear me, hopefully you could hear me. We look forward. Let's have this discussion again sometime next week, because of course there are updates on this particular subsidy story, and we'd love to bring you back alongside other experts in this field. I mean, you're an expert, so we can have a rounded conversation on this, a bogus one, a very big one, and take time to dissect the issues and the effect it would have. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Diola. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.